I'm Alli. I came out after 20 years of marriage and I have 3 kids.
I'm Melissa and I have 2 kids and I came out at 37 after an 11-year marriage.
This podcast is about coming out later and the struggles and victories that come with it.
When coming out feels like the end of the world, but it's really just the beginning.
This is the Lesbian Chronicles. Welcome to the Lesbian Chronicles.
Oh, we got some vibrato with that one.
Yeah, we did. The audience.
I like it. I like it.
How are you?
I'm good. I was going to say, I don't know. I guess it's been a minute since we did a solo. We had a great episode last week, I felt like.
Right. And you're indulging me this week on this episode.
I am.
Finally,
we get to talk about money.
Well, or just like investing. I don't know. And
real estate.
I think it's important to say up front that I have no degree in this, but I do feel like I was raised with someone who did this. So my whole life is this. And I have had incredible experts along this journey. And I do feel like I can help in this way.
I agree. And I have a little bit of experience in this because I've been writing for a company that does marketing videos for financial advisors. I've been doing that for almost 2 years. But so I can kind of speak to the advice that I hear these advisors from all over the US and Canada share.
I love it.
But I do have a question before we start off, because this is a question that I have to interview these advisors a lot to write their bios.
Right.
But one of the questions that I always ask them is what is your earliest memory of money?
Ooh.
As a kid or even as an adult, when it kind of clicked with you, okay, this is what savings mean, this is what it means to work for something.
Right. Do they have interesting answers?
Most of the time they do. And it tends to be that it was something when they were really young where they saved up money and they had to mow lawns or do chores around the house, that kind of thing. And they were, able to save up and buy this thing they really wanted. And then, there's also the side that I hear a lot is where people grew up, in a family where money was scarce.
Mm-hmm.
And the parents let the kids know that, they were constantly talking about the bills or how we're going to pay for this, that kind of thing.
Right.
And it kind of prompted them to be I need to handle my finances. And they end up in this career where that's what you do because it's been a scary thing for them.
Yeah.
For their whole life.
Right. I think that's really cool. I was thinking as you said that, how a lot of my friends, I noticed they have parents that never really, my parents, I have to say, definitely taught me about money, investing, real estate being number one. But I have a lot of friends who know nothing about, they've never heard of a Roth IRA. And that to me is that's baseline. When I was very, very young, I remember my father constantly saying, you contribute the max every year to your Roth. It was drilled into my head at such a young age. I don't listen to everything my parents say. A lot of times I don't take their advice. They're a little bit too conservative about how you do everything. But I do think I remember the Roth. And I remember that my father always would say, you can get very creative with financing and do almost anything. There's no oh, you go to the bank, they said no, go home, you didn't get it. Mm-hmm. It's more there's always a million ways to get creative with your assets to make something happen. And so anyway, I think I'd love to talk about that a little bit and then also mention our lender who I think we both ended up using, who I'm obsessed with because I think she's one of those people who will get it done and knows the creative ways.
Well, and I think this is kind of a poignant topic. I'm sure people are listening to this you're supposed to talk about being gay.
Yeah. This is important.
What are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
But this is an important aspect of starting over.
Yes.
And, for me, money, I always kind of instinctively knew how to save money.
Right.
I was definitely out of the 4 kids in my family, I was the one that always had a little bit of cash on hand.
Right.
I knew better than to go run off and spend all my money anytime I got it. And that, I don't think that was really instilled in me by my parents. I think that was just like a natural thing.
Yeah.
But I've also, I growing up, my parents had money, but then they lost their money.
Right.
Like, so I've experienced both ends and really have seen kind of like what it's been like for my parents to experience that. So that was a very scary thing to me when I was coming out was, I had a job, I worked part-time, but,
Right.
I'd never like handled my bills. I had
Yeah.
never like, yes, I'd bought homes with my ex, but I didn't do any of the like legwork with like applying for the loan or any of that,
Right. And I think this is the main thing. I mean, aside from if you take away the biggest thing, which is this emotional upheaval of your life, you're reinventing everything. Money is the thing. Money was the thing in the back of my mind of I've been a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. I hadn't worked at all. So I think that's a lot of these women are feeling that. You're coming out and you haven't worked. You've been staying home with kids, or maybe you worked part-time. Whatever the case may be, I truly believe firmly that there's a starting point for everyone. I don't care if you tell me you have zero, that you can build wealth with real estate if you want to. And I know people are like, oh, not me because I have this problem or that problem. Bullshit.
Or like credit problems.
Doesn't
like
matter.
that
Well,
kind of
the
thing.
credit is a problem, but you can start
Well, it
fixing
is, but
it
you can
right
fix
now.
it.
Right. And I think like one of the things I knew, I always was good about my credit only because my parents drilled that in me. But I do think that no matter, some people don't even know about credit. They don't know about.
Well, right.
Yeah.
And that's just it. Like I didn't know about credit.
Right.
I was like signing up for credit cards in college because they would have those like little booths on campus where you got a free t-shirt,
Right.
And I'm like, sure, yeah, I want a free t-shirt. So I'd fill it out, have a credit card, not really knowing what that meant.
Right.
And then, my credit was kind of screwed there for a little bit. I am now in like the 800s. So thank you.
And
but that's taken me a long time to get there.
Right.
But it's a matter of like making sure that you're paying your bills on time, that you do have a credit card, but you pay it off every month.
Yeah.
Like
Let's be specific about that. You should only use 30% of your credit. So if you've got a credit card, you should try to get the max you can get as a credit limit, but you should only be using 30% or less of your credit. So you should never be in a situation that your credit limit is, I'm going to make this up, 20,000, and on that credit card is 10,000. That affects your credit. So there's a concrete thing you can do right now would be go on TransUnion, go on Experian. I pay for the monthly service. It's like $20 a month. It's nothing. Lock up your credit, number one. But number two, sign up for that and have it monitored. Stay on it. And you can watch it go up. And as it's going up, like you said, into the 800s, you start getting excited. It might all fluctuate here and there, but generally I watch it. I watch it at least once a week. I'm on there kind of looking to see what's happening. So I think that's concrete thing you could do right now to start building your credit is get on Experian, TransUnion, sign up for an account and watch your credit and look at your credit cards that you have.
What credit cards would you recommend people getting and like how to find them?
I love my Capital One Visa, and I love it because I get 1.5 points back, which is more than the other ones. I look to see which was the best ones. I also love that they alert me when anything happens, which I'm sure all credit cards do that, but I've had no issues with my Capital One. It's just been a really good card for me when it comes to saving. Now, I could have done a travel card, but I would rather them just give me 1.5 points across the board on everything because I don't really want to be pushed into one thing or the other. I just want to know if I'm spending money on this card, I'm getting 1.5 points. And maybe make that your gold standard. Don't get a credit card unless it
has some sort of right. Because like I have the American Express that does the Sky Miles thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that a lot of people don't know is, and this is totally off topic, but you can connect your Sky Miles to your Lyft account.
Yes.
And so you get Sky Miles when you use Lyft.
You can do the same thing with Capital One. It's brilliant.
Oh, you can?
They also have Capital One Shopping, which will tell you if there's a coupon. Like if you go to use it online, it'll automatically tell me look, you can get this for 10% off. Do you want to use it? This coupon. So it's finding coupons for me out there. I don't know that saves me a ton, but it saves me something.
Yeah.
But the biggest tip there is using 30% or less. And if you already have a credit card that you're maxed out on, your mission right now is to get that paid off and done so that you can start to build the credit, so that you can start to build the wealth, because you're never going to be able to do it without great credit. You're not going to be able to rent in the best way. You're not going to be able to buy anything in the best way. When you go to buy a car, you want to have a kick-ass credit score. And high sixes are good, but to me, that should be bottom of the barrel. You should be in the 7s and 8s if you're paying everything off on time and you're not using a shitload of your credit on your credit cards, because why would you be? Like that tells me that's your answer. You're living beyond.
Well, I will say that sometimes that is kind of like the way that people are trying to get out of the hole. You know, they get a credit card and it's like that's how they've got to live initially, you know?
Right.
But I would say, you know, if that's the position you're in, just be really careful about what you're actually putting on that credit card.
Right.
And not, like you said, not having that massively high balance.
Right. So that's the first thing. Credit is king. It's going to be king for the whole thing. And then the other thing is look around. Like I always think about, if I could look at somebody's assets, I know I could make a plan for them. I'm not even in the business and I know I could. So look at your assets. Like if you're getting divorced, do you really have zero assets? You mean to tell me there was no IRA that you're getting part of? There's no house sale that you're getting part of? Is there really nothing? And if the answer is yes, there's really nothing, there's $0. Okay, I'm shocked by that, but if that's the case, we can even make a plan for you. But I'm going to be talking right now to the people who have maybe a tiny bit. You know, maybe they're starting a job and they've got a little bit of cash. I'm talking $5,000.
Well, and another thing that I'll add here is that we hear from a lot of people that kind of because you're initiating the divorce, feel like they're not entitled to those things in their divorce, you know, those assets. But what I will say is that, I think the best way to go about that situation is 50-50.
Totally.
You know, you're not taking any more than you're entitled to. You're not taking any less. And you also have to consider how you have helped to accomplish where you are today. If you weren't at home raising kids or just taking care of the household, contributing whatever you do make, you know, you too would not be in the financial position that you are today. So don't discredit that.
That's exactly right. And I think that going on that, the first thing, to me, it's real estate is the easiest way to build wealth, in my opinion. And that's how my parents did it. That's how I'm trying to do it now. I do have a business, but real estate to me is such a fundamental way that if you can't get that first house, I don't care how, maybe it's not the dream house. Maybe it's not even close to the dream house. It's still really important that you get in the market and start. And I hear people say back to me sometimes, well, the interest rates are too high. It's just not a good time. I wholeheartedly disagree with that, because the deal is, when the interest rates were great, we were all paying $100,000 too much for our houses back then. So right now, there's a little bit of a reprieve in the pricing. Now is the best time. Okay, the rate's a little high. Anything below 10% is still really good. You're still smarter to get in. You're still far smarter. History has told us that. You get in, even if you're at a higher interest rate than you want, that's okay. You can refi down the line. You might be changing, who knows? You might get enough in that house because it's going to go up in value that you can leave that house, buy something else, and now you're at a lower interest rate. But guess what? If you stay out of the market, you're definitely not, because now you're starting from scratch again and paying more. So It doesn't matter. And I practice what I preach. I'm in the market right now. I don't care that interest rates are high. I'm not missing this opportunity. My advice to you would be, right out of the gate, and I am going to recommend somebody because I think she is the absolute best, talk to a lender. Let them know. It's not, I remember when I was getting divorced and I was buying that first place, I had nothing. I hadn't worked in 15 years, and I was bawling to her. This is a complete stranger. And she literally said to me, "We will get this done. Like, I know there's a lot of creative ways. I know you're terrified. We're going to get this done. And had I waited, and people were telling me, just rent for a little while. Just rent, Alli. Rent until you know what it's going to be. That would have been financial suicide for me. It would have been horrific for my financial
because
future.
rent is so high.
Rent is so high, and I never would have gotten in the game. And if you don't get in the game, you're never going to go to the next thing. Mm-hmm. So that is the key. I don't care if you're buying a 1-bedroom condo and
that's what I did.
That's fine because you're building wealth.
It's funny because you and I actually had this conversation like a couple years ago, right after our divorces. And I was trying to decide what to do. I was renting a house, but I also was renting like a little tiny studio in Atlanta. And I wasn't sure where I wanted to live, but I knew that I wanted to like take this little bit of money that I had and put it towards something.
Yes.
And you put me in touch with this lender, and I called her, and I'm thinking she's going to be like, yeah, fuck off.
Sorry, sweetie. Sorry, sweetie. Yeah.
Sorry, little girl.
Yeah.
But no, like she was like so sweet to me. And yeah, like we figured out what I could afford. And I just ended up buying a condo instead of continuing to rent one in Atlanta. And,
so smart.
I've lived there for the past few years. Now I'm going to rent it out and start making some money off of it. I've debated on selling it, but my interest rate is so low there that I'm like, I'd be dumb to sell it.
And let me talk about that specific property, because I know the property, I know what you paid, I know it's gone up in value. That it's also such a killer property for 2 reasons. One is you've owned it now long enough that if you wanted to, and it stays an investment property, you could do the 1031 exchange, which is down the road. You could sell it, make a profit, and pay 0 taxes by reinvesting that money into something else. That's a whole nother can of worms that I've learned about.
That is a very complicated topic.
It's complicated, but it works. I've done it now twice. So that would be an option. Or another option that I think people don't understand, and they're so terrified that they don't do, is you could cash out, refinance, take the cash out of that property and buy another property. So the thing is that people don't realize is you can keep that asset forever. I will keep that townhome I bought after my divorce likely forever. It's in a great location. It's a great asset. I'll keep it, and I'll just keep going on my way, adding in when I can. You're never going to, I mean, I hate to say never, like, you're never going to lose your ass in real estate if you buy in a great place. You're not going to, if you can walk to something, or if you can, it's in an area that has a good school, or it's, it has some kind of draw for people to come. I don't know enough about the markets way out in the sticks. I don't know about that, but I assume there's even areas there that are,
I was going to say, I mean, people did lose their ass in the market in 2008. They were dealing with loans, the balloon loans or whatever the fuck they were, where they increased and people couldn't keep up with it. There were also people losing their jobs at that time.
True.
And that sort of thing. And that's what really threw things
Fair
through
enough.
a loop,
Fair enough.
When you don't have the money
to pay
your mortgage,
Absolutely.
and then you don't have a job to get another mortgage.
That could be any of us, though, at any time.
Right. 100%.
So that could be anyone at any time. To me, it's like the lending was terrible. I'm not saying that should never have happened, but know what you're signing. If you're doing a 5-year ARM, things are going to change in 5 years.
Google is your friend in those situations.
Yeah. Or having an
Google
incredible
what
lender.
That means.
Or having
have
a
the
lender
lender explain it to you. But also, yes, you can Google. There's tons of videos on like YouTube and stuff that dumb this stuff down.
Exactly. The other thing that I want to say is everybody thinks that you have to put down 20%. You got to put down 20%. I don't have 20%. Can't do it. The truth is, most people in a post-divorce situation, you can put down 3%, 3.5%. If your credit's pretty good, and it doesn't have to be phenomenal, but if your credit's pretty good and you even have just a job offer, it's not even that you have to have the work history yet. If you have a pay stub, you can get approved for a loan with 3% to 3.5% down. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we're talking, I'd have to do the math quickly, but I mean, on a house that's $350,000, that's what, around $10,000?
Yeah.
I'm probably doing the math wrong, but, so that to me is like, that's a goal you could then work towards. So I'm going to save up this money. and that's going to be my down payment. You can also get loans that are 100%. You don't have to put any money down. You can finance the whole thing. Sometimes there are caveats to that of like where you're forced to buy, but you could do that too. Like you can buy in an area that's up and coming or that has these like places where you can put zero down.
And, the reason why they say the 20% thing is to avoid the PMI.
Okay.
But the thing is, PMI usually is not that much.
Right.
It's maybe like $50 to $100 extra a month.
And it shouldn't keep you out of the market.
And really, too, like putting down 20% versus 10% on a house, your payments it's not that big of a difference between your payments.
Right.
And yeah, I know that 20% thing has been drilled into everyone's head.
It's true. Like everyone I talk to is like, yeah, we don't have the 20%. We can make the payments. We just don't have the 20%.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's another branch off of this is like, it doesn't hurt to call a lender. Mm-mm. The lenders want to give you a loan. Yeah.
That's another good point. Yeah. They want to work with you.
Yeah. They want to find a way.
Right.
Like they're making money off of giving you a loan.
Right.
So they want to find a way to give you this loan. So it can't hurt to call them, talk to them, say what your situation is, and just find out like what you're looking at and call a few different lenders and get their perspective.
That's another good point, and kind of see who's walking you through it, who's explaining it, the things like we said, so that you don't end up signing something that is super scary. Like they can walk you through what it means. I was going to point out too that the 3.5% down loan, the limit on that is you can get up to $726,000 putting 3.5% down.
What?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Right now. So to me, it's like,
that's depending on your income, right? Like,
well, of course, like it's depending on your income and your credit score, but to me, it's like it's a pretty high limit too. It's not like you're forced into these little things. Like you could do a pretty decent sized loan with 3.5% down. The other thing that she mentioned was FHA loans for first time home buyers. You can have a credit score as low as 580, which surprised me. Because so you're not even out of the game if your credit is subpar. It's like, bring me your excuses and I'll tell you why they're not good excuses. You should just be buying. Like you should really be buying. Like to me, it's like, if this is on your mind right now, call the lender and start at least looking. Like go on realtor.com, go into a zip code or your kid's school district and just start looking.
I think that is another aspect though that kind of hampers people's ability to buy, because like, for instance, the school district that I live in is at a very expensive real estate market, and that doesn't change.
Right.
Like real estate here is high no matter what,
right?
No matter what's happening in the market. It's one of those things where it's kind of like, it can be hard to find an affordable place to live here.
Yeah.
One thing that I considered, but I didn't have to do, was to use their dad's address since he was still in there.
Oh, okay.
And then I could have like moved to like one of the surrounding cities and like found something more affordable.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
and you would have still been investing. So to me, that's the key.
Right. And, I think sometimes with the school thing, it's like when you do your divorce paperwork, okay, it says like, who was the primary parent? Who was the parent where they are picking the school district essentially?
Right.
Like I'm listed as the primary parent, but we actually do, even though I still live in the same city, we have his address listed for our school district because I'm actually with a different elementary school.
Okay.
This might be a long-winded way of saying this, but basically no one's going to go and knock on your door and be like, sir, can we see that you're the primary parent?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
and he is a parent. Like they belong there.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like, unless it's contested, they're not going to go and like hunt down your address.
Right.
And my kids live at that house. They just don't live there full time. So it's a way to go about, like, if you're kind of tied, you feel like, to a school district, and maybe, your ex-husband makes a little bit more than you do, let him be the address for your school.
I think
and
that's,
then buy something
and still
15
invest.
minutes away.
I think that's really good advice. And then I was going to also say about when people try to give me the high interest rate, it's you write off the interest. So it's also like, okay, not only are you going to pay a little less because the market's cooling because of these high interest rates, but you also that's a write-off. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's way smarter to invest. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay.
But I don't think that a lot of people realize that that's a write-off.
No, they don't. So, but if they have an accountant or if they go to, when you file your taxes, that's, to me, it's like, it's a double hit that go ahead and, what they say in real estate, you date the interest rate, you marry the house. So the interest rate, okay, get in for less than 10%. You're still massively winning. And then hold that asset for long enough that you can either sell it, take what you made and go buy the dream that you really wanted in the first place, or hold it as the asset like you're doing, like I'm doing, rent it and move on to the next thing. Oh, and you're going to say, how do I get the down payment? How do I get the new down payment? Now I got to come up with another, chunk of money. Mm-hmm. No, you can use some of the equity out of that property to finance the next one. So I think there's all kinds of creative ways to start building wealth. And I don't know, without real estate, I don't know, somebody could say, oh, I'm going to build wealth with my IRAs. Well, kind of. But I don't know that it's going to give you the same kind of wealth that you could have with real estate, because you can also have someone living in your real estate helping you to pay down that debt.
Another thing, this is kind of outside of the real estate aspect, but just as far as like retirement savings go and having a plan in place, one thing that I didn't realize until recently is that, to hire a financial planner, I think a lot of people think that you're hiring them for like,
oh, good point. Yes.
An eternity.
Yep.
And you're going to have to pay them month after month, but no, like you can pay them to do like a one-time look over of your stuff. They will look at your 401k. They will look at what you're expected to get for Social Security, all that stuff, what you're making now. And they can do a projection sheet and show you where you stand and like what age you can possibly retire, what areas you need to like focus more on saving. It's just a one-time deal,
Right.
Like you don't have to sign on to work with them for life.
No.
But it's great peace of mind to know where you are and like if you're in good shape to retire at 65 or whatever.
Yeah, I think this is a good place also to just one more time say, open a Roth IRA. Just call Morgan's, any Fidelity, any of them, and open a Roth IRA. Mm-hmm. And every year, I think the max you can put in is like $6,000 a year. It's
and
so
honestly,
smart.
Financial planners, they're it's just like a lender. They want to work with you.
They want to work with you.
They're making some money off of working with you, right.
Right.
And they have great advice to share.
That's absolutely true. The other quick thing, just on like a sweet note, is that when we got divorced, I didn't have a job. I had stayed home with children. So I was that mother. I did have alimony. I did have child support. So I'm not going to pretend I didn't. But the banks wouldn't count that for my purchase because they felt like I didn't have a track record over a period of time of getting that money every month. So,
and I guess sometimes people are dealing with people that aren't paying alimony or people that aren't following through with paying child support.
Right. But I was starting a business that I had no idea. Ignorance is bliss. Like you have no idea. Like I had a degree in physical therapy, but I said, I'm going to try to start this business. We were making no money. In fact, we were investing money into the business and we had nothing. But I do wonder, like, if people, it's almost like I wonder if my company's success was based on the fact that I had no plan B. I had to make this work. I was hungry as hell to be financially okay. I was so terrified that sometimes I think back and I'm like, it was kind of this awesome time to start a company because you are desperate. You're scared. You're working your butt off because you don't want the alternative, which is to be scared financially for the rest of your life because you blew up your marriage to start something else. I think in some ways too, like maybe now's the time to kind of decide, what do I want to do with my life? And if I feel like I have a skill set that maybe I could take to market, maybe now's the time.
There's a fire.
There's a fire
under you.
There's a fire that's there then that I don't even have now in the same way.
There are a lot of people for sure that are in this and haven't worked in years,
Haven't worked in years. And maybe don't think they have a skill set.
And well, that too, that's, yeah. Like maybe they're like, well, what do I have a business that I can start with, And I guess you don't necessarily have to have a business, but just find something. And if that something is even just, working a part-time job for a little bit where you're just making a little bit of money, it's something.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that can lead to bigger things.
Right.
It's temporary. And I think that is a mindset that you need to get in if you are in that space where it's like, gosh, I can only do like a little bit right now. Just keep in mind that that's temporary. It's you're working to the next big thing. Like you're going to start at that job and next thing you know, maybe you're getting promoted, or maybe you meet someone at that job that can hook you up with a job that's a better fit for you, that kind of thing.
And now's the time for that as well, because the workforce isn't really out there excited about working right now. There's so many jobs. I mean, even my company, we're constantly trying to find good people. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity to be had right now for people that want to work.
Where do you post your job listings? I think that's one thing. It's like people kind of don't know where to look.
We use, we actually had, I think there's this company out there that does, this I should have brought up a long time ago. There's a company out there that has moms. It's like I forget what it's called, but it's essentially like stay-at-home moms that used to be in the workforce. And I'll find the name of it and we can post it. That used to be in the workforce. So a lot of these people do have really killer qualifications, but now they're home with kids. And because we hire a lot of contractors, we use that resource quite a bit. Word of mouth. We've had a lot of people come from like one person comes on and then they, have a couple friends that know how to do the same thing. And so then we have them. Our full-time people, though, I would say we recruited and it wasn't easy. Like there's a lot, like I think there's a lot of jobs out there and there's not a ton of people.
Yeah.
So if you're out there looking, I do feel like now is a really good time. I know you're hearing about the layoffs, but there are lots of jobs out there.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people do recruiting through LinkedIn. I think that's a great resource to start with. Create your LinkedIn page. If you have an employment gap, I think it's perfectly fine. Personally, I think it's fine to put on there. I have been a mom.
Yes. And the lender said that. Like, let's talk about that. Carol Lynn said that. She's like, if I can have a fact pattern of I was a school teacher, then I was a stay-at-home mom, and now I'm just entering the workforce, that's a fact pattern. That's fine. I totally agree.
Like, I think a lot of people are kind of like shameful about that. Like, oh, I've just been staying home. No, you've been staying home and like raising kids and managing a household.
Yeah.
It's not working.
No. And if you pick a job you love doing, you will be successfield. Like you'll rise to the top.
I know that like LinkedIn too, that it'll send you alerts for like jobs that are within your field. I get emails all the time from them like, oh, we're looking for a writer for this such and such company.
I think there was this woman, and actually one of you and I's mutual friends had recommended her for my company. She's in marketing. She's like brilliant. Anyway, we interviewed her. We loved her. And my friend who recommended her is listening, you know who you are. But anyway, she had this like, she had gotten laid off or something. And she had this like dream list of like what she wanted in a job. And it was like, huge things, like huge perks. And like, she wants this, this, and this. And we couldn't do it. So we were like, we think you're amazing. We wish we could hire you. We can't. If you don't find these 10 amazing things that we'd all love to have, come back because we will hire you. Well, sure enough, I just saw she got a job. And I'm sure she got everything she wanted. So I'm so happy for her. But I'm thinking like, damn, like there is a market out there still. If you're, for qualified people coming back, like she's a badass and they'll get her because they can do all those things.
I think too, to like reiterate my point of like, some jobs are just going to be temporary. They're going to be something for you to just get some money in your pocket and start building. It's kind of like, I guess I had to experience this mindset to really get it. And that was like when I was fresh out of college and my first job, I hated it, but I was under contract. I couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
Like I was obligated to show up to that job every day, but also telling myself like, all I have to do is 2 years here and I'm free to go.
Yeah.
That like kept me like in survivor mode.
And it goes by quickly.
It does go by quickly.
Yeah. And it
did start to get easier,
I just found the place we use and it's called the Mom Project.
The Mom Project.
Yep. And it connects women with companies who are dedicated to respecting work-life balance. An important perspective for mothers who are in the workforce. They match moms with freelance and full-time job opportunities.
That might be the most valuable resource we're offering.
The Mom Project.
I love it.
The most valuable resource that we're offering is, her name is Carol Lynn Upshaw, and she's with Hyperion Mortgage, and we can put her email on our, I guess maybe our Insta.
Yeah. Now, is she only in Georgia? Like, how does that work?
She actually does a lot of places in the Southeast. She does Georgia, Florida, Alabama, actually even in the Northeast, New Jersey, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
So she's up the East Coast. I cannot say enough about her. If you want to change your financial future, I know I sound like an infomercial, but I can literally say she changed everything for me. Even when I didn't think it was, I was crying. Like I said, I had just gotten divorced. I was a mess. And she figured it out. So,
and again, like, if you don't live in any of those states, just start calling lenders.
Yeah, start calling around.
They want you.
They do want you. And I think it's just important to get into the market. Don't wait. Don't have people telling you rent for a while. Find a place. The market is going to it's going to rebound, and you're going to get the benefit of that. Mm-hmm. So as the interest rates, come back down, the prices are going to go up. So get in, find something. If you know you're going to be somewhere 2 years, get in the game.
Yeah. And I was going to make the point too of like, if you are in like a spot where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing and you have to rent, my advice there is to not rent from like a major company, like a Molly or whatever,
like a rental
AMLI.
Agency. Okay.
Yeah. Like, cause those places are ripping you off. Like try to rent from an individual or someone who's like a low key property manager, not some big corporation, because those places are going to charge you more for rent. They're also going to bump up your rent after a year, no matter how often you pay on time. They don't give a shit.
Right.
And so if you're dealing with just an individual, they're going to be a lot more flexible with that kind of thing.
And you know what, actually, I'm saying, and rental prices are high right now anyway. So even if you're not going to be somewhere 2 years, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, still buy. Still buy, because you can stay there 6 months and then put a renter in there.
Yeah, that's
and move
true.
on. Like, I would say still buy. I would say there's almost no reason not to.
Although before you buy, look at rental restrictions.
Oh, definitely. That's definitely true.
Ask about rental restrictions because they are rampant, especially when it comes, like people will be like, oh, I'll just Airbnb it and I'll make $3,000 a month.
Yeah,
no, like most condo buildings, especially right now, are saying no Airbnb, period.
They have to be long-term rentals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
I've had to jump through many a hoop right now to
well, both my rentals
mine rented out
are long-term. Like they were never going to be Airbnbs, mostly because I love my neighbors so much that they would kill me if I did that.
Honestly, to deal with it, you're going to make some money on an Airbnb, but at the same time, like you're dealing with a lot of legwork.
Yeah, it's true. I said this just the other day to Maria when we were in Blowing Rock. We were renting a place and we had our dog there, and we're like great renters because I respect people's property. I love their property. And even we were like shitty renters. Like I was thinking, like even we're kind of fucking things up here.
What were you doing?
Nothing. I mean, it's just like you're in and out of the hot tub. The kids are leaving it open.
Yeah.
The dog is in and out of the house tracking shit in. I'm like, you know what? This is like, I do not want this for our stuff. Like I felt bad. Like, and we're good.
That's so funny. Like when we rented that cabin up in North Georgia for New Year's, it was immaculate. Like it was freaking perfect and it looked like out of Pinterest. They had all these custom signs everywhere, and we kept like saying to each other like, this has to be a brand new rental. Like they had to have just started renting this within the past like 2 months because most stuff is like beat up at this point.
Right.
And that's what's like I have a rental in Florida, and it's people steal our decorations.
That's what I'm saying. It's like nutty.
They trash the place. Like even if
you have to get in and have a long term, some of them are like, I think mine are like 6 months or the shortest you can rent. But what the gain of that is that it's because it has an HOA, I don't have to do anything. Like there's no lawn to mow. There's no, everything's taken care of, which is really nice.
That's why when I'm retired and an old lady, I'm living in a condo.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want a yard.
Turnkey.
Yes.
Well, I think we've covered a lot.
I think so. And I hope that people find our advice beneficial.
Yes.
We'll talk more about being gay next time.
I'm going to say it again. Carol Lynn Upshaw, Hyperion Mortgage. And I'm going to post, when we do this episode, I'll post her email on Instagram, or you can just look Hyperion Mortgage.
And we will take a cut of all loans.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Awesome. Well, I think this was great. Fun times.
Yeah, fun times. And any questions, I guess, maybe you could DM us and we can send it to the appropriate people.
We'll do our best.
All right. Bye, Melissa.
Bye.
Want to support the Lesbian Chronicles podcast? Rate us and write a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
We love listener feedback. If you'd like to share your story, email us at melissaandalli@gmail.com. That's Melissa, MELISA, and Alli, ALLI, @gmail.com. Or follow us on Instagram at Lesbian Chronicles.